Markets expects India's relations with its neighbours and the wider world to remain unchanged under the next government. Let's get to Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia of Gateway House. Ambassador, good to have you with us. Why do you say that?
I say this because this is a very major milestone in the history of India today, the elections and what follows after the elections. You already are talking about the results. India has a very specific view of its own role and place in the world. And therefore, you're quite right in looking at the Indian foreign policy and the external dimension. And I'm so happy to be talking about it to you.
Why won't its relations with the rest of the world change? India needs the rest of the world.
You see, fundamentally, we are talking about the policy, but also we are talking about the execution of the policy. The foreign policy and the diplomacy. Foreign policy broadly of India has acquired or assumed a very specific shape in the last 5 years. And that emerges from the background of the past 65 or 70 years since independence. There are certain fundamentals in the policy that remain unchanged, but that does not mean that as the world changes, India remains static. No. India looks at how the world is changing, makes an evaluation very carefully, and then responds and connects. And it is not just reactive. India studies the world in its own light and tries to look at its own interests properly.
It is a $2.6 trillion economy, on par with the likes of the UK as well as France. What role do you see India playing?
Fundamentally, India is getting more and more integrated with the global economy. India very much wants to have a situation where the foreign economic dimension acquires a much greater momentum and impetus. So essentially, to answer your question, India wants to use or leverage its connection with the world in order to accelerate the economic development at home through greater investment into India, through greater inflow of technology, connecting with the best practices in the world. At the same time, India is a country which thinks of the larger world as well. We do see ourselves as a part of the global family. So in terms of promoting the development of the world, that also remains part of our destiny.
During his first term, Modi introduced the Made in India initiative. How successful has it been?
Well, you know, I'm not really an expert on the economy, but there is no doubt that this was done with extremely good logic and with extremely good intentions. India is a large economy, and essentially the focus of Made in India is to strengthen and empower its manufacturing sector. There has been some success. Clearly, we need more success, and especially the success whereby the manufacturing produces more jobs for the millions of Indians which are joining the workplace. So we can be proud of what has happened now, but we have to be more confident about the future.
Ambassador, Prime Minister Modi campaigned on nationalistic fervour. Do you expect Modi to take an even harder approach when it comes to Pakistan, should he win a second term?
Well, that is a tough question. I think it would be correct to say that Pakistan is our immediate neighbor. It is one of the most important neighbors. The relationship is a complicated one, as we all know, the history of the past 7 decades. There is nevertheless a perception, I think, on both sides of the border and in the world in general that these two countries will have to learn to live with each other in a peaceful manner. So to answer your question once again, I would say directly that I expect a mixture of firmness and resilience. I do expect that things will start happening somewhat differently after the dust settles down on the new government.